yes. In fact, activists have been urging Republicans to vote for Bernie Sanders in the open primary for Democrats as part of what is being called Operation Chaos 2020. Joining me now, former South Carolina representative and former Governor Mark Sanford, also a former 2020 Republican presidential candidate. Welcome, sir. It's awfully good to see you, Governor. So the question is, or did the president actually outline the answer here? Why would he want Republicans to cast a vote for Bernie Sanders? What is the logic? And does the moniker Operation Chaos 2020 shed some light on that answer?
I mean, you know, the answer is allegedly Bernie would be easier to beat in a general. I mean, but if you go back to 16, I don't know that these things actually pan out in that regard. But I think more important is this. The fact that Biden is showing up where he is in the polls today, and I suspect that's what's going to play out over the day, suggests that what always happens, which is people really en masse don't cross over. Republicans vote for the ideas that they believe in, and Democrats vote for the ideas that they believe in respective primaries. And for all the hype about Operation Chaos, I don't think it's going to pan out in South Carolina.
I'm curious your thoughts on what a Sanders-Trump contest would look like. As you know, some establishment Democrats are fearful of Bernie Sanders becoming the nominee. Why do you think that is?
I think it is the case because of what you see here on the coast of South Carolina. You know, the first congressional district for the first time in 50 years flipped to the Democratic side because a lot of working moms and stay-at-home moms and go down the list said, you know, what's going on here is inconsistent with what I'm trying to teach my kids. I'm out. And so as a consequence of that, and the same kind of thing happened with the young millennials, I don't always love mom or dad, but what's happening here is inconsistent with what they've been trying to teach me. I'm out. That happened here on the coast of South Carolina in the first congressional district. And as a consequence, this district went Democrat. But those same soccer moms care very much about the family 401k plan and a few other things. And so, I think it's economic anxiety that would drive them in the other way. So I think that, you know, he's a bit far out for sort of a lot of very conventional folks here along the coast of South Carolina. And I suspect that plays out across the country.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of being out, to pick up on what you were saying, there's no Republican primary today because the South Carolina GOP canceled it. You, sir, were a Republican presidential candidate in this race. And former Massachusetts Governor William Weld is still in it. So what message does calling off that primary send?
It sends the obvious. I mean, there's a reason that General Kelly is still no longer at the White House. This is a guy who does not like dissent. I believe that politics ought to be a vigorous debate of ideas wherever you may fall out on the ideological spectrum. But that's not what this president believes. And consistently, he tries to quash dissent or debate, whether it's within our party, Republican Party, or on larger venues. So, I mean, I think it is what it is and where he comes from. I think it was an attempt to guard him from my chance or others' chance of picking up some steam. But you got to move on. And so he came here yesterday, had a debate, you know, a forum, if you will, last night at the North Charleston Coliseum.
May I ask about the op-ed that you recently wrote in the New York Times, I believe it was last week, asking why do my fellow Republicans make excuses for Trump's deficits? You say, sir, that he's driving the country to financial ruin and his own party is letting it happen. Why do you think so many conservatives look the other way when it comes to fiscal responsibility relative to Donald Trump?
Because it's put up or shut up with Trump. I mean, you know, a lot of people are afraid of, again, that dissent quotient for fear of them ending up where I ended up, or Bob, you know, Corker or Flake, or go down the list. He pushes back really hard against somebody that disagrees with him. And so I think part of it is just self-preservation. The other part is sort of a collective amnesia within the Republican Party right now that makes zero sense, but it's based on leadership. If the President of the United States says it's not important, which is basically what he said by virtue of his budget and by virtue of other things that he said over the last couple of years, a lot of people are followers, and they say, well, if the president didn't worry about it, I guess I'm not either. I think it's a huge mistake. It's going to, again, I think really hurt us as a party, but that's where we are right now.
Well, I, sir, appreciate your courage for speaking up with a dissenting voice as needed. Thank you so much, Mark Sanford. Even if Joe Biden wins